DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone, and it is time to bring in Riley Jensen, our college football expert, mental performance coach, former Utah State Aggie quarterback, also a former Snow College Badger, and briefly a Cougar for, one spring ball. Is that the full resume, Riley? Did I cover it?
Yeah, that's pretty good, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you play your high school football, Riley?
Cottonwood High School.
There we go.
1 year at Logan High. 1 year at Logan High, and then Cottonwood High School.
There you go. All right. Well, good to have you back talking quarterbacks. And I am curious if you were more intrigued by the three-way quarterback battle, if that is indeed what it is, at BYU, or maybe you see it differently. Or if you're more intrigued by that guy was really good at New Mexico, how's he going to do in the Big 12 in a league that's loaded with quarterbacks? If you're the best quarterback in the Big 12, that is something, because you could have a really good season and be the fifth best quarterback in the Big 12.
Yeah, look, both of these situations are really, really interesting to me. When you're talking about Devon Dampier, obviously he comes with, some pretty good passing yardage and really some electrifying runs and some ability to run the ball that is, probably as good or better than they've seen at the University of Utah in a while. I think the only concern that I have about Devon Dampier is 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. It has to be a higher percentage of touchdowns there. I'm sure that that's something that they're working on together to make sure that inside the red zone and outside the red zone that you're getting higher efficiency. Now, that doesn't mean that they still won't run him in the red zone and use him in all kinds of really exciting ways in the red zone, but it still needs to be, preferably a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1, touchdown to interception ratio. And then when you flip it over to BYU, I've had a chance to watch them now, McKay Hillstead, Trayson Bourget, and Bear Bachmeier, and these are also exciting quarterbacks. I mean, Bear Bachmeier is a super smart kid. Obviously, he was at Stanford. He got recruited by Alabama and just about everybody in the world. And when he throws the ball, it's as electrifying as Dampier will be running the ball. Bachmeier is a big, thick kid that can also run the ball in a different style than Dampier. Then when you watch Trayson Bourget, he's polished. He's a leader. He's a guy that can actually, I feel like he's a leader of men. I think he's really, really good that way. He's got an outstanding personality. And he throws a really, really pretty deep ball. And really is probably one of those quarterbacks that you just love because he kind of takes what the defense gives him. And then McKay Hillstead, out of Skyridge High School, who played really well at Utah State, makes really, really good throws in the red zone, is a very, very polished quarterback and also a leader. I mean, this is a really tough decision for A-Rod down there. I think right now, just based on and look, every single day Bear Bachmeier is going to get better and he's going to get smarter in the offense. And quite frankly, he's picked up the offense a lot faster than he probably should. But I think you have to give a little bit of a lean towards McKay Hillstead and Trayson as far as the offense goes. But you have to keep Bear Bachmeier in that three-headed race because he's just going to get smarter and he's just going to respond better every single day during camp.
When it comes down to it, what do you think is going to be the deciding factor? So for me, and from my experience in being on the college level and then talking to college coaches, the pressure is always on the oldest quarterback in the room because he has to be significantly better than the other guys to win the job. If it's an even situation, you're going to give it to the younger guy in that situation because it leaves your program more healthy for more years. So this is a tough one, and I think if I were the offense coordinator and if I were A-Rod, I would be putting these guys in uncomfortable situations to see how they react to the pressure of an uncomfortable situation. So that could be maybe playing or calling plays that don't really suit their style.
Yeah,
their skill set, and then also putting them in situations, as far as the red zone goes, as far as 3-yard line goes, 25-yard line in, 40-yard line in, where you're telling them it's 3rd down and 18. Can you make a play for us? It's 3rd down and 12. Do you know where we're going with the football if they bring a blitz and you need to check down? And so those are going to be things that are really, really important. I got to tell just a personal story because I was in a 3-way race with Paul Shoemaker and Kevin Federick and myself. I just got to tell a really funny story while we were competing for the job. So I was the guy that was a little bit more like Bourget, maybe not as exciting of runner and those kind of things. But I felt like I was the guy that would take what the defense would give me. But I was very concerned about running the offense the way that it was supposed to be run. So I'm going through and I'm making the reads, and I remember I'm pushing the ball downfield, and sometimes receivers, in spring ball or in fall camp are running the wrong route, so it makes you look bad because you made the right read, but he ran the wrong route. Now you're stuck with the ball and that kind of stuff. And Kevin Federick got up one time, and he ran this play that was, back then we called it red right 63, and it was a deep in by the outside receiver. It was a 10-yard in by the tight end, and then the running back ran a little arrow route out to the right. Both of the guys downfield on 63 were wide open, and Kevin checks it down to the running back, and Norm Chow and all the offensive coaches went crazy with happiness about what a great play it was. And I'm like, dude, both of the guys downfield were wide open. And Kevin Federick, I kid you not, to this day I can remember it, he walks back to the huddle and winks at me like he knew something I didn't. And that was, coaches love it when you check down. And so sometimes when I'm advising a quarterback now, I'll tell a quarterback, like every 4th play, just check down, even if everybody's wide open, because all the coaches will go wild and crazy about the fact that you checked down to the guy because you couldn't see. And they were like, what brought you to that read, Kevin? What brought you to that read? And he's like, well, I couldn't see the guys downfield, so I figured it was better to check down than it was for me to throw into a place that I couldn't see. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just got out veteraned. I got out. And it was a really, really, it actually, coming full circle, when I went up to Utah State and I was competing for the job, I did the same thing, and the coaches went wild about me hitting the check down, and it was, I was laughing. I was like, thank you, Kevin. So there are ways to win a job that are really, really interesting because they might not even have that. They might not even have to do with like that you're really better, but that the veteran moves and what makes coaches happy.
See, that you would think then that the older guys would have an advantage. And I get your point, although I think how much eligibility is remaining is less and less important as guys transfer all the time for all sorts of crazy reasons. I wondered if what it's going to come down to is not who performs well. Sure, that's a factor, but who performs well enough to win when the schedule is softer in the first quarter, the first half of the season, but who has the highest ceiling? So that, you don't want to mess up 2 or 3 of those first 6 games, right? That would be a disaster. So you've got to be good enough to take care of business and be in good shape coming through the start of the season. But you got to have the high ceiling because they have big dreams at BYU. If you don't have the high ceiling, how are you going to get to your big dreams? So I wonder if they think, okay, who's got the most talent here, and is he going to be good enough in September?
Well, I think your point is well taken, and I think that's like brilliant journalism right there because that's something that you have to think about in this new world. I also think back just to the Tanner Mangum, Zach Wilson deal where they started Tanner Mangum early in the year, kind of knowing that the schedule was front-loaded,
and then it would just make it easier to bring Zach in and make him the starting quarterback.
But that's not this schedule.
No, it's not. But it can also be like, hey, Hillstead looks great. Let's go with him and let's run him like he wants to run. And then when he gets hurt, then whoever your second string guy is, you're happy about, and he comes in and maybe he runs away with the deal. You know what I mean? And so it gives. I would, in that scenario, if McKay Hillstead is out there making great plays and he's Riley Nelson 2.0 and he's tough and he's running and he's making all these plays, but he's a little bit small, and then he gets injured for 2 games and Bear Bachmeier comes in and just plays lights out, then all of a sudden you have your guy.
Yeah, I mean, that could possibly be as far as that goes. We'll just have to see how it plays out. I wanted to ask you about Dampier, and obviously the 12 and 12 TDs to interceptions just stick out like a big sore thumb. And on the flip side, 1,100 yards that he ran for also.
And 2,600 yards passing? I mean, those are big numbers.
Yeah, 27.68. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know from you, so he had last year, from the rushing standpoint, he had 155 carries, right? And so now he's going to come in, Jason Beck's going to come in, and the offense is going to look at least somewhat, if not significantly similar to what New Mexico ran last year. But just say he runs 20 times a game. Just use that as a round number. How many do you think would be called plays or him taking off on his own?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I talked to an offensive coordinator recently about that, about how do you determine that, and the first answer was, well, it depends how good of a runner he is.
He's electric.
And then, right. And so I think that he will get 8 to 10 called offensive plays. And I think we're going to be looking at 5 to 8 scrambles, or him just making a play with kind of a bootleg or an option where he drops back he doesn't love. And I think 20 is a little high.
Yeah, it probably is. I think he averaged about 13 last year.
Yeah, so I like that number. I think he could get away with 15 carries a game and still stay healthy, because the way that he's built and the way that he took hits, I mean, they're going to be a little bit faster, and he's not going to get quite as many rushing yards. But if he got 800 rushing yards and 2,700 yards passing in the Big 12, nobody's going to be complaining.
No,
I mean, like, nobody. So to me, I think you're looking at about ball play 5 to 7 where he just runs on his own. And I think because he's a dynamic runner, you're okay with that. You're okay with that. But depending on the quarterback, it's different. And then I think depending on your opponent, like how bad do you need to win? How bad do you need to play in the red zone?
That's the one. I think that was where I was going, Riley. You watch his highlights at New Mexico. They are calling runs into red zone because they know he has an issue with picks. And, the windows are smaller and they close faster, obviously, when you get down there and there isn't as much space. And they're running naked bootlegs. If you have a good running back, which they apparently do, right, after you've sold it and he's run up the middle and all that, the naked bootleg, especially either he's out there by himself or he's only got one guy to beat. And they also look like they shotgun and it looks like a sweep and he's got 10 blockers in front of him. He didn't fake it to anybody. He just runs around the left side and scores.
No question.
And he doesn't get hit on a lot of those plays. So all carries are created equal.
Correct. Red zone, you're going to see a lot more carries. And then also towards the end of the game, you're going to see more carries. So, when you get to third and fourth down conversions in the end of a game and it's tight, it's like, dude, we got to win this game. We got to win this game. And so it becomes one of those things where, as an offense coordinator, you have to be smart because you're trying to keep that number not too high. I think 20 is too high to get him through the season clean. But I think if he averages 13 to 15 carries a game, I think he's okay.
but that's going to be loaded up in the red zone. It's going to be loaded up on 3rd and 4th down. And we've seen offensive coordinators around the state do that, and they're really good at it. They actually have people who keep track of those carries during the game so that they know.
We've seen Taysom Hill as a great runner. How do you think he compares to him?
Well, when I'm watching Dampier, I think he's great. He's a different runner. Taysom, once he got downhill, it was really, really scary. I think Dampier has a little bit more side to side in him, but he also has that ability that once he gets downhill, he's going. So, and they're just different. They're both very electric runners. It's just a little bit different style of running. It would be like, I think, and this is obviously a poor man's version on both of these. Like, I think Taysom Hill would be more like Josh Allen, and I think you're looking at
Lamar Jackson.
Like Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick type of fun with Dampier, right? Yeah. So, but both of them so effective in the run game, right? And so exciting in the run game. So, he's going to be fun to watch, guys.
I agree.
There's no question, and there's no question. Listen, I'm saying this on the radio, and I try to be careful about being too critical of guys that are 18 to 22 years old, but I'm not saying anything that Dampier doesn't already know. He wants his numbers to be 18 to 6 on the year. He doesn't want them to be 12 and 12. He wants them to be 24 and 8 on the year, not 12 and 12. So these aren't things that are like super critical. They're just next level stuff for the quarterbacks that are playing.
Right. Yeah, but I'm gonna expect him to be a little on the lower end of that ratio because I just don't think he's gonna throw the ball in the red zone as much as a lot of quarterbacks do because he's gonna run it in the red zone. 19 touchdowns. There got to be a lot of 5-yard touchdown runs in there, and some people throw it when they get down there, but they're gonna have him run it. I mean, it's Kyle Whittingham. Let's not outthink the room here.
I agree with you. Yeah. But here's I think it's easier to throw the ball from the 20 to the 20.
Right.
So to me, that should be easier to go 18 and 6 than 12 and 12. Right? It should be easier to not throw interceptions in the middle of the field than it is to get in the red zone. And so if he's going to be running all the time in the red zone, then his ratio should be higher.
Well, maybe it ends up being 14 to 5.
Awesome.
Right.
That's phenomenal.
Because he's got 19 touchdown runs over here.
Right. No, I'm okay with that. If it's 14 to 5, that's awesome. That is a great number. If he throws for the same number of yards and it's 14 and 5, that is really, really good football. And then you throw the 19 rushing touchdowns on, you're like, dude, this guy, 33 touchdowns and only 5 picks. We'll take that.
Oh. Sam Levitt, baby.
Sam Levitt.
Sam Levitt.
Now you're talking.
Arizona State. Yeah, but, he had a good practice for a 5-7 team the other day. So, it was.
Are fourth quarter carries different than early in the game? Are defenders gassed and reaching with the arms? Are they still blowing people up?
No, they're gassed, and that's where a good running back and a good quarterback takes advantage of it. I mean, to go back to Arizona State, that's where Scatterboom made his freaking living was in the fourth quarter. Some of those runs that he made that you see on highlights, like I can almost go look them up on PFF right now, and they're almost all in the fourth quarter. Like the big runs, the knock them down, spin move, get down the field, 55-yard runs, they were in the fourth quarter because defenses get gassed. And that's where it's really fun to have a Dampier in a fourth quarter that can make a run because – I'm just telling you, college football is a long game, and if you're not in great shape, fourth quarter is tough. Fourth quarter is really tough.
We've been hearing out of Logan, man. Every time Bronco speaks, they love each other. They're connected. There's a great spirit, all this stuff. I'm just kind of wondering, they had the bad season last year. They brought in a ton of new guys. So what level of truth is it versus spin?
I think that Bronco Mendenhall is fantastic at rebuilding programs. And I think that whether you're an old BYU fan or an old Utah fan that didn't like the delivery of his message, Bronco is so good in the first 3 years of a program at helping guys to believe in him and helping guys to believe in themselves, because he is very clear and concise with his objectives. There's not one player at Utah State that doesn't know what he has to do to get on the field. It's very, very clear. Now, you might hate the way that where Bronco said stuff like position mastery or quest for perfection or these different things that went on at BYU, but those are really, really healthy things for players to know what he wants out of them. And I look at the great coaches. You look at Kyle, you look at Bronco, you look at Kalani, you look at Chris Peterson in the past. You look at the great coaches back east with Nick Saban. These guys are very clear to players about what it takes to get on the field. And then if you do it, you do get on the field. And so that builds trust. That builds a lot of trust. And so I don't think it's fake right now. I don't think it's manufactured. I think this is what Bronco does really well early in his tenure at programs, and it helps to turn the tide and it helps to turn them around.
Riley, we'll leave it right there for now. We appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay, man. Thanks, guys. It's the season. Let's go.
Yeah, there it is. Riley Jensen, college football expert and mental performance coach, former Aggie QB.
I'm going outside right now and put my hand in the dirt.
Nice. It's go time, man.
I'm ready.
Snap on that.
I'm ready to hit you.
Snap on that chin strap. Let's go. All right, DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.